They suck. Sophie Cunningham is now calling it out.
It was just part of the game. I think the refs had a lot to do with that, not protecting, the star player of the WNBA. And so at the end of the day, I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I do.
And it's been happening all season long. All season long. It's not just this game. It's been happening all season long. This is what happens.
That is a byproduct of the referees not having done their jobs.
Protecting the star player of the WNBA.
She's not wrong. She's right about it. It's been a build-up of all the years.
One woman has simply lighted the flame in a league that is already tense. Sophie Cunningham, who was formerly more well-known for her hustle and passion, has shot to fame with a powerful message that is upending the WNBA's fundamental basis.
Sophie Cunningham became the protector of Caitlin Clark.
History of sports right now is going on with the WNBA and their referees.
Caitlin Clark is the star player of the WNBA.
No more quiet. There should be no more justifications or disregard for the harsh fact that Caitlin Clark, the biggest star in league history, is being singled out, fouled, and deserted by the officials who are meant to keep her safe.
The most popular woman ever in the WNBA, Caitlin Clark.
No comparison to Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark is the most must-watch basketball player in world basketball right now. There's nobody that does what Caitlin Clark does.
How special and rare Caitlin Clark is.
Caitlin Clark is a gifted player.
Caitlin is the one.
She's the biggest basketball star in the world.
Sophie did more than simply intervene verbally. She took action, created headlines, and went viral.
Sophie Cunningham stays standing on business.
You're not going to take down my teammate, who happens to be the star of the WNBA.
Here's Sophie Cunningham, the badass for the Indiana Fever, who is willing to fight. She was also a kicker in high school. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Can't keep my hands to myself. I mean, I could, but why would I want to?
It's not just large, it's historic. It all culminated when Caitlin Clark was shoved to the ground during a game. And now she's publicly holding the WNBA accountable in a manner that feels more like a full-fledged lawsuit against crooked officiating than a news conference.
Cunningham became a viral sensation over the last week after committing a hard foul on Suns guard J.C. Sheldon, who poked Clark in the eye earlier in the game. A brawl between the teams ensued, with Cunningham at the center of it.
We've witnessed Clark being hacked, shoved, and thrown around in game after game, with little to no official protection. And this time, JCS Sheldon's hit was blatantly reckless and spoke of the same pattern.
It was a build-up for a couple of years now of them just not protecting, the star player of the WNBA.
WNBA is a freaking joke.
A non-basketball play getting shoved to the ground, and it's just a technical foul.
WNBA and their referees, they suck.
And the officials once more sucked their whistles. No ejection. No flagrant, but Sophie Cunningham wasn't having any of it.
During that, it was just part of the game. I think the refs had a lot to do with that. It was a build-up for a couple of years now of them just not protecting, the star player of the WNBA. And so at the end of the day, I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I do. And I'm a team player, so.
The instant Clark stepped onto the court without hesitation or filters, Sophie rushed in like a goods train. She faced Sheldon directly, drawing a technical of her own. But she was quite clear that this was a seasoned player putting a line in the sand, just a colleague responding emotionally.
If Sophie Cunningham didn't do what she did, that is the blueprint to beat the Fever. If she did not do what she did, the blueprint to beat the Fever would be, you can rough up Caitlin Clark.
The post-game conflagration followed. The fans nationwide have been yelling all season that Caitlin Clark is being treated differently, unfairly targeted and abandoned by officials who are supposed to maintain order, and Sophie didn't hold back. When she called out the league, the referees, and the double standard that has become unavoidable.
Sophie Cunningham has come out and called it out, and of course, where Cunningham fully embraced her enforcer role for this team, she didn't say stars in the WNBA. She said the star of the WNBA. She completely and fully gets it.
Soon after Sophie's speech, the Globe watched videos of her press conference go viral. And within hours, supporters poured out on social media, praising her as the only one who had the courage to defend Clark.
Her jersey is the #1 selling jersey in the WNBA. Sold out. Her jersey surpassed the all-time woman, Caitlin Clark. because Sophie Cunningham stood up for Caitlin Clark.
You're not going to take down my teammate, who happens to be the star of the WNBA.
Hashtags such as Watch Her Protect Sophie had just vocally sued the entire system, and the people supported her like an army. Caitlin, Mash, and Sophie were right when they started trending. It wasn't just another reaction, it was a full-fledged rebellion.
WNBA and their referees, they suck. And they also will not come down on these players for trying to take out the league's greatest asset.
Everybody knows that you can punk the Indiana Fever. Everybody knows that if you get physical and you rough up Caitlin Clark, the referees aren't going to do anything.
Sophie Cunningham's fire didn't go out at the post-game press conference. It spread like wildfire throughout the league, garnering attention from major sports outlets, fans, analysts, and even former players. Many of them agreed that Sophie had said what others were afraid to say, and her actions supported it.
Oh, you know what? I'm just going to be me. I don't go in there trying to predetermine anything. I'm dialed in. I need to focus on hitting my shots, making sure I'm executing the schemes right. I'm not focused on the extracurricular activities. And you know what? During that, it was just part of the game. I think the refs had a lot to do with that. It was a build-up for a couple of years now of them just not protecting, the star player of the WNBA. And so at the end of the day, I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I do. And I'm a team player, so it's all good.
To be clear, the hit on Caitlin Clark was not an isolated occurrence. Rather, it was a part of a troubling pattern in which teams have been putting bodies on Clark with elbows, checks hard screens, and really cheesy shots game after game.
I don't like these cheap shots, though. She got gouged in the eye. Cheap shots can't be happening, and it always happened. No. Caitlin is certainly going to be a storyline. She was also a kicker in high school. Okay. Oh, wow. For the brand. Obviously, the kicker is the biggest badass on the court. I love everything about it. Sophie, welcome to Indianapolis.
However, officials rarely intervened to promote her fair game. But Sophie had changed the narrative so that these incidents would no longer be dismissed as difficult basketball.
But in a league where the referees let the game get completely out of hand, every game, like it's not a one-off. Every game, every close game gets out of hand.
She stood out not only for having the guts to speak up, but also for refusing to back down, since many athletes keep their frustrations to themselves. Cunningham described it as targeted aggressiveness aided by biased and uneven officiating. Sophie set hers on fire.
Caitlin Clark is the star player of the WNBA, and Sophie Cunningham is not going to pretend that she's not.
And threw it directly into the media, saying aloud that the WNBA is not doing enough to safeguard its most valuable player, and that if something isn't done, the league could lose more than just games. The fans rallied, and Sophie's jersey began to fly off the shelves.
Her jersey is now out of stock, flying off the shelves. If you want a Sophie Cunningham jersey, you're going to have to wait for them to print more. She's number 8, by the way. You're not going to forget that going forward. Taking down J.C. Sheldon on a layup attempt in the fourth quarter after we saw J.C. Sheldon claw Caitlin Clark in the eyes.
Her support for Clark was more than just loyalty. It was a signal to the league, the referees, and every opponent who believed they could rough up Caitlin and leave unchallenged. Online retailers found it difficult to keep it in stock. Fans saw her not only as a teammate, but also as a leader and protector, who was the only one willing to question the status quo when the silence had grown deafening.
It's certainly going to set some sort of record for amount of votes casted compared to last year, if I'm not mistaken. I feel like we're on track for that, which just shows how much engagement we're driving across the league for all different sorts of players and teams. And, that's exactly what the league needs, is people excited about that type of stuff and wanting to be involved and feeling like, their vote really counts and feeling like they can make an impact on the All-Star game. So it's really exciting to see. And hopefully as we continue to go here year to year to year, it just continues to grow.
Cunningham's words caused a stir in the WNBA. And in a single game, she transformed from an experienced role player to the spokesperson for a movement. With the spotlight now hot, the league's question is not whether there is a problem, but rather whether they will have the courage to address it.
She posted this on social media right here.
Can't keep my hands to myself. I mean, I could, but why would I want to?
I mean, that's funny. That's funny. She put in the caption, "It's a joke.
Because Sophie has made it clear that she is by no means finished speaking if they don't.
Seeing how things are done, and after you've seen what it looks like to get it right, and you come in and see something looking really wrong, you're going to call it out.
Until somebody sends a message by standing up to them, holding their ground, happens over and over and over.
Sophie's stand went beyond a single incident. It exposed the bigger picture, which many were reluctant to acknowledge. The WNBA has a developing integrity issue that revolves around Caitlin Clark's treatment. Her entrance attracted international attention, generated enormous viewership, and attracted a whole new fan base.
How is she doing? Is there any timeline for her return?
Yeah, she's doing well. She's doing well. Again, no timeline. I think it's day to day, and for us to just make sure that we're continuing to be supportive of DB.
However, rather from being shielded like the valuable asset she is, Clark has turned into a target for abuse on the court. And Sophie Cunningham exposed that failing in the media on all fronts.
Caitlin Clark effect seems to be crazier than year one.
I love watching her score and just everything about her.
They went the extra mile just to watch her play here.
This is great news for women's basketball, period.
Caitlin Clark is the GOAT. She signed my jersey. So happy, I'm crying. I'm so happy. This is the best day ever.
For weeks, her ferocious reaction to J.C. Sheldon's hit was about justice rather than feelings. Referees have frequently ignored Clark's cheap shots from opponents, and the physical abuse had become so commonplace that it no longer raised eyebrows. But Sophie refused to be indifferent to it.
And in last year, I think something we noticed, and I think a lot of people noticed, is when Caitlin would get bullied, nobody would do nothing.
That's right.
Nobody would do nothing. It was like, hey, they didn't know, like, whoa, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe people are doing this to Caitlin Clark. Teammates weren't jumping in there. They bring in Sophie Cunningham. I had no idea. Sophie Cunningham was a black belt at the age of 6.
Yeah. Yep.
Boom!
Wow.
J.C. Sheldon, that's cute. You want to poke her in the eye, then push her into a boom, Mabry thing? Go ahead. I'll take a take foul, and you'll eat the deck a little bit here. And then we'll get out. I love it. I know people aren't going to like this.
Her message to the league was clear. If you don't protect her, I will. According to reports, players in the league are split. Some dislike Clark's fame, some like her skill, but are afraid of the media circus that surrounds her. And some, like Cunningham, understand the wider picture.
Wasn't it like, how many people, there was a lot of people coming in on her.
Hell yeah, it was like, their whole starting five was in the top. Their whole starting five was on that list. Their whole starting five, even folks that came off their bench was on that list, bro. No cap. That's crazy, bro, but that really show you the influence that, like, Caitlin Clark got, though.
No, that is, bro. People,
her influence is insane,
and people
bro.
try to say that, like, what?
Like,
man,
come on,
I'm stuttering. Like, come on, G. Like, let's just state the fact.
Like,
bro.
it's
You
folks
talking
coming
about
off,
state the
like,
fact,
come on, bro. You got folks coming off of her bench, like, off of their bench that's in that top 40, bro. Like, her influence is crazy. Like, you can't even hate on it, because it's like,
you got motion.
You got like real deal motion.
You got motion, bro.
Real deal motion, bro. She got real deal motion.
Sophie is aware that Clark's presence benefits everyone by bringing in more viewers, better contracts, and more exposure. But when the league permits her to be physically punished during every game without any repercussions, it not only puts Caitlin in danger, but also jeopardizes the league's momentum as a whole.
Oh, you know what? I'm just going to be me. I don't go in there trying to predetermine anything. I'm dialed in. I need to focus on hitting my shots, making sure I'm executing the schemes right. I'm not focused on the extracurricular activities. And you know what? During that, it was just part of the game. I think the refs had a lot to do with that. It was a build-up for a couple of years now of them just not protecting, the star player of the WNBA. And so at the end of the day, I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I do. And I'm a team player, so it's all good.
The WNBA's response, or lack thereof, perhaps more striking. There was no public comment, no disciplinary action, and no admission that their officiating was being scrutinized. Sophie's voice became even louder during that silence.
I don't even lean into the negative. So I literally just block people. Like, I promise you, like, if it seemed mixy to me, I press the block button. Like, I have people be like, why you block? I don't know. You said something that rubbed me wrong. But I always lean into the positive side of the internet and the fans. Like, none of that bothers me, bro, because it's not real. You don't know.
Her remarks turned into a rallying cry that made supporters wonder, why isn't the league doing more? The true irony is that the very referees who abandoned Caitlin's defense are now seen as contributing to the issue as dishonest, prejudiced, and inept.
And it's been happening all season long. All season long. It's not just this game. It's been happening all season long. This is what happens, right? This is what happens. You've got competitive women who are the best in the world at what they do, right? And when they got to get control of it, they got to be better. They got to be better. Every year when we have our league meetings in the fall and in the spring, we say the same thing over and over and over. And nothing has changed.
Sophie didn't hold back when she implied everything. Based on the wild public response, she wasn't the only one who thought so. At this point, the WNBA must decide whether to ignore the obvious targeting of their biggest star or to confront what is happening right in front of them. Cunningham's outcry didn't just shield Caitlin, it also revealed the flaws in a league that is finding it difficult to handle its own increasing attention.
That's nice.
And she was shooting the shit out of it.
Of course she was.
Right, so she was shooting the shit out of it. And
she's the face of the league.
Agreed.
She's the face of the league. Agreed.
Just have nothing but great things to say about who she is as a person. She's so welcoming and so warm as an individual that she can have a conversation with anybody. She's cut from the same cloth as me in that regard. You know what? Us Midwesterners, we tend to just, accept everybody with open arms. She was so kind to my family and everyone in the suite when she came to KC. So huge fans of Caitlin.
And it is now impossible to ignore those flaws. Sophie Cunningham's courageous stand against unethical officiating wasn't a publicity ploy. Rather, it served as a wake-up call. She didn't just support her friend, she revealed the truth which the WNBA refused to face.
Many WNBA fans are calling out the referee problem.
The referees literally turned their back.
After every single game, WNBA players, fans, coaches are all complaining about the referees, and they have shown that they're not going to change anything because the referees continue to be horrible.
Fans are paying careful attention, and the league's silence is no longer acceptable. If the WNBA is unable to shield Caitlin Clark, one of the greatest up-and-coming stars in history, then players like Sophie will.
And in last year, I think something we noticed, and I think a lot of people noticed, is when Caitlin would get bullied, nobody would do nothing.
That's right.
Nobody would do nothing. It was like, hey, they didn't know, whoa, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe people are doing this to Caitlin Clark. Teammates weren't jumping in there. They bring in Sophie Cunningham. I had no idea. Sophie Cunningham was a black belt at the age of 6.
Yeah. Yep.
Boom!
Wow.
JC Sheldon, that's cute. You want to poke her in the eye, then push her into a boom, maybe thing? Go ahead. I'll take a take foul, and you'll eat the deck a little bit here. And then we'll get out. I love it. I know people aren't going to like this.
This is about the league's future, not just one game. And because of Sophie's bravery, that future is now demanding accountability.
Caitlin Clark effect seems to be crazier than year one.
I love watching her score and just everything about her.
They went the extra mile just to watch her play here.
This is great news for women's basketball, period.
Caitlin Clark is the GOAT.
She signed my jersey. So happy, I'm crying. I'm so happy. This is the best day ever.
WNBA rumors suggest Caitlin Clark will be among the first stars making $1 million annually. The most notable of which is, y'all already know who, the needle mover, Caitlin Clark.
So in 2024, she averaged 16.5 points per game, 4 assists, 5.5 rebounds. She shot 37% from the field and 31.8% from 3. Now, if you look at her preseason in 2025, she only played 2 games in this preseason, and one was against that Brazilian national team. She played 21 minutes. She averaged 14.5 points, 6 assists, 6 rebounds. She shot 52.5% from the field and 50% from 3-point range.
Oh, you know what? I'm just going to be me. I don't go in there trying to predetermine anything. I'm dialed in. I need to focus on hitting my shots, making sure I'm executing the schemes right. I'm not focused on the extracurricular activities. And you know what? During that, it was just part of the game. I think the refs had a lot to do with that. It was a build-up for a couple of years now of them just not protecting, the star player of the WNBA. And so at the end of the day, I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I do. And I'm a team player, so it's all good.
Protecting the star player of the WNBA.